Brian Powell of I Run Far here with Paddy O'Leary and Dylan Bowman before the 2017 TNF 50. How are you guys?
Good, good. We've got some fresh Irish weather outside, so I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yeah.
It's miserable.
It is quite miserable out there this morning.
It wouldn't be a proper North Face 50-mile week without at least one day of torrential downpour.
Yeah. I don't think we've heard of any landslides or massive tree falls or anything like in some of the past years yet.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Paddy, welcome to your first I Run Far interview.
Cheers.
This is great.
I'm really excited to be sharing it with you both. Yeah.
Excellent.
The nerves are kicking in.
Just relax.
That's just the coffee.
All right, that's the coffee. Actually, only tea. The Irish, we only really drink tea.
Yeah. So anyway, obviously, Brian and I know you well, but since this is your first interview, why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction about who you are, where you're from?
Okay. Paddy O'Leary. I'm an Irish fella that moved here to San Francisco 4 years ago. Grew up on a dairy farm back in the southeast of Ireland. Wasn't much of a runner back in the day. My father was actually, Pat was kind of a pillar of the local running community. I was the youngest of five, and I did a bit of cross country as a kid, but really preferred the team sports and stuff like that. So I did a lot of like Gaelic games, hurling and football, and into college I played lacrosse. And yeah, lax bros. Did you play?
No.
Let's go. And then university I played lacrosse, but then I moved over here for a work opportunity back 4 years ago and kind of found my way into this trail running community and started doing my first ultras 2-3 years ago and found myself here at this table right now.
Cool. So obviously you're also part of the November Project crew, and was that sort of your introduction into trail running?
Yeah, so well, kind of like the few months before I moved over here back in 2013, I remember I did a couple of like 5k and 10k charity races back in Ireland, and I'd one work colleague who was into the mountain running, so I did 1 or 2 5k and 10k mountain running races, and I loved it. Like running in road shoes fell all over the place. It was great, but that was kind of the first little spark. But then moved over here and I fell into this November Project workout group, and we started doing a lot of the endurance challenge races here with TNF. But I was still convinced I was a lacrosse player at the time. I was training for the World Lacrosse Championships in Denver in 2014, and I was coaching a bit. And I didn't want to lose my fast twitch muscle, so I refused to run beyond 6 miles. But then into 2015, we started doing more racing with November Project, and then started getting involved in the SF4C running community. And I started to push myself to longer distances and whatnot, and try my first half marathon, first marathon, and the likes. And that was like in early 2015, so it's kind of been a manic progression in the midst of all that. Yeah,
because you went straight on to running well at TNF 50 that year.
Yes, so kind of my progression that year, I did my first like 30, I think over Christmas I decided, fuck, can I curse?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Fuck it, I wanted to do my first marathon, and I went out and did a 30k in January and beat Varner's record on that first race. And but I got connected with Matt Lay, who's been my coach the last 2.5 years, and he kind of had me start planning through some longer races. So I signed up for the Oakland Marathon that March, did pretty well in that. Did my first 50k in Tahoe Rim in July, the 50k National Championships in August here in Marin, and then first 50 mile that December, and that went pretty well. I finished I think 13th that first year.
Yeah.
And but been progressing up there since then.
And then you did progress. I mean, last year you moved up to 9th.
Yeah,
with a good
so like a 20-minute increase. I had a bit of an implosion in the middle of it. I was hoping for like a sub 6:30, and in around 5th place. I want to be up there closer to Jorge Maravilla, and but had a little bit of implosion throughout the Dipsy and Mura, but then pulled it back in later on, and fought back up to 9th, which is good. So keep that upward progression, 9th, 13th, 9th, maybe 5th this year, and then 1st next year, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, ambitious.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your season this year. Mm-hmm. So you started with a solid run at Way Too Cool. Then you had a couple tough days at Transvolcania and Broken Arrow.
Yeah.
Before another solid day at CCC.
Yeah.
How do you feel about your season? How do you think it's helped you build up towards this race to finish it off?
So I think the progression, like last year, I was doing a lot of kind of local US races and had good success with a couple of top 5s, top 10s. This year I really wanted to set my pedestal higher to aim for the international races to compete against the best of the best. Way Too Cool had a good first performance, and I had a good, I also have done Boston Marathon the last 2 years, so I had a good 2:30 at Boston this year, about 3 or 4 weeks out of Transvolcania, because that would be a good tempo run for that as well. But then traditionally my race approach has been to be more conservative early on and try to chase the race and catch up throughout the race. I kind of much prefer chasing to being chased. But Transvolcania, I went for it early, so it was like sitting where I wanted to be in the top like 7 or 8 over by the time we got to El Pilar, and then into the second climb, running on with Jason Schlarb. But yeah, I had like probably one of my, I suppose my first real true proper bonk, where my legs just could not go, and I dropped down to, I just couldn't tackle that second 5,000 foot climb, so dropped back to 25th relatively quick. And then got my act together and was able to descend pretty well and feel pretty good at the end. But I think it was just lack of suitable training for that. I think I got down to Cone Peak, which is a 5,000 foot peak we have down in Big Sur, once for a training run, but I think I needed more of those sustained climbs, which we find it difficult to get here in the Bay. Also, we haven't really got a chance to go out to Sierra Nevada this year to get those big sustained climbs out with Mammoth, out with Tim Tollefson and Mammoth and Mana, because of the snow we've had this year. So I think I wasn't ideally trained going into that. Broken Arrow I went into because I just loved that race, and it was definitely more of a training run for that. I did the VK on Friday, and then Broken Arrow the 52 on Saturday, and I did not grow up with snow. The course that was 50% of snow. I thoroughly enjoyed the alpinism of like getting the poles and hiking up KT22, but on the flats and descents I was completely lost, and it was definitely straight into baptismal fire there. It was an interesting experience, but I think
CCC, and how have you gotten through CCC?
Well, I think I was racing too much early in the year, so I eased off over the next 2 months going into CCC. I was really well prepared into that, and I went back to my more patient approach of first 40k more reserved, and then I was back in 30th, so I think I might have left it a little bit too late and fought up to 14th by the end, but I think I could have done another 10 miles in that race. Then it's a quick turnaround to TNF, so I took a couple of 2-3 solid weeks off, and then haven't been doing crazy long distance training for this, but I've been trying to work on speed and on tempo climbs, so a lot of tempos up Tam, and a lot of cross country, which I've really enjoyed this year, and it's been nice to turn the feet over like that, because this is all still quite new to me in terms of like how fast I can run.
So you are a local, and of all the folks we're speaking to, you can probably give the best perspective on the course changes this year.
So with the I'm really excited for the last edition for the last 3 miles of road and trail into the city, because it's pretty amazing that we have this unique opportunity, that we have this huge amazing trail system right next to one of the most famous cities in the world, like San Francisco, and getting the finish across the bridge I think is pretty spectacular for the 90% of people doing this race who are not from San Francisco. I think for we have one extra climb at the start, when we start out at Sausalito, so it'll add like 500 to 1,000 feet to the race. People were suggesting that it might be a slower race because of that this year, but I think we're going to be able to turn over that last 5 or 6 miles from Marancello onwards.
And do you think that's going to be possible with, I don't know what the current situation is going to, like what they talked about in terms of blocking off the bike path?
It's going to be interesting crossing that 1.5 to 2 mile of tourist laden sidewalk.
Do you think there's going to be an advantage, like if there's a close race? Like last year there was Zach and Hayden just going pretty close at the end to being that second runner, kind of like a snowshoeing or something like that, where you can be in the tracks.
Kind of cycling style. It's going to be difficult for everyone involved in that because there's going to be a lot at that time of the day. If this weather holds up, actually, it'll be really quiet in the bridge, so that could be quite nice.
So 60 and sunny is not ideal for that.
It's not ideal for that. The tourists are going to be out. The selfie sticks will be out in force. But no, I'm pretty confident they're going to have a lot of volunteers in the bridge and whatnot.
People will be
guiding people and making people aware of the race. Yeah. But that's going to be a fast finish, because then that last mile we hit some trail and some stairs onto like 3/4 of a mile of flat, fast fire road, kind of our hard packed sand into the finish line, and it's one straight line as well. So it's going to be mentally really challenging as well for the guys racing against each other. Who goes first? Who's chasing?
Sounds like an awesome classic cross country finish.
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of cross country. I've been telling everybody who will listen to me about your performances recently.
I'm one of those people.
Very competitive Bay Area cross-country scene, and Paddy has been destroying it this season. You've been mixing it up with guys who are as fast or faster than most of the guys that you're going to be racing against this weekend. You also mentioned that you like to employ sort of a conservative approach in cross country you don't. You love to just go for it,
hammer
which is
from
awesome.
the start.
Are you tempted at all to try and hang on or hang closer to the Hayden and Zach train based on the fact that you've been running so well recently?
I think having all of that, I don't think so. I think because I have that turnover, I think I'm standing a very good opportunity of when we get into the last 10, 15 miles of the race. If I have that legs and that turnover, I'm going to be able to put on, I hope I'll be able to put on a pretty fast time from Marancello onwards to the finish. So I want to be in that position where I'm chasing people down and capitalizing on the carnage that's inevitably going to be ahead. I am tempted by all means, but I think from my Transvolcania experience, I think I'm still learning a lot about my body because I'm quite new to the sport. I think at the moment the kind of more conservative approach is the stronger approach for me, I think.
We'll look forward to seeing that out there this weekend, Paddy. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Good luck, buddy.
Cheers.